All right. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the show. And as always, I am your host, David Burrows, coming to you live from Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. Now, why do I have to say where I'm from? Well, because we are simulcast in several different countries around the world, different communities watching us. We will be live in the United Kingdom. Hello to our friends, United Kingdom. I see Carinder out there already saying hello. Hello, Carinder. We're being broadcast in Australia. Where else are we? South Africa, Ireland, all throughout the United States, and of course, here in Canada. So for wherever you are watching from, thank you so much for being here. And of course, we do talk about mostly things that are happening here in the Sarnia community. But somebody asked me the other day, they said, if you're talking about what's happening here in Sarnia, why broadcast all over the planet? What I've learned is that we can learn from other communities around the world. And a lot of the people that we talk to here are from associations that are not just local to Sarnia, but they affect people all over the planet. So why not share those stories and help each other from what we do in our communities? And hey, you might see something here and you go, hey, that looks like fun. Maybe we could do that in our community as well. So that's just one of the reasons that we broadcast. So we're very grateful to all of our Facebook hubs out there that are spreading the word around the planet. So Mother Nature's still not, like, she really does do whatever she wants, right? I don't know what the weather's like in your area, but we've certainly had a ton of rain. In fact, it's been devastating to some people. I know in the forest area, there's the streets have been flooded. Golf courses have been completely covered. Rock Glen, which is a conservation area not too far from here in Sarnia, it has this little tiny waterfall that always had a little trickle of water flowing down it. And now if you go there, there's videos all over Facebook. Looks like Niagara Falls out there. They've never seen that amount of water before. So things are getting cleaned up. I know some cities, some streets here, I keep getting notifications. I've got a couple more here today from the city saying that certain construction is happening with trying to get the water levels back down. So keep an eye out for the construction workers out there. They're working hard to fix things up, and hopefully Mother Nature, are you listening? Of course, we like the warm weather, but we would like her to dry some things up here. But it's not looking like it's stopping anytime soon. More rain coming along the way here throughout the week. So keep carrying those umbrellas with you. We get anxious for the warm weather around here in southwestern Ontario, but we live where we live. So I guess we just have to learn to deal with it. I hope you had a really good weekend and got out and enjoyed some things. There's never lack of anything to do in the Sarnia-Lambton area. And for me, it's usually a busy time. Well, let's back up first. I guess we'll go to the beginning of the weekend for myself anyway. Of course, some of you know that I do karaoke once in a while. I used to do it all the time. Now it's kind of sporadic, but we get out to the Moose Lodge and have some karaoke fun. And that was on Friday night. We did that starting at 9 o'clock at night. And look at all the people that come out to see us. And everybody, who doesn't want to be a rock star, right? I mean, and there's some more that just showed up. And we just, what's cool for me is as long as I've been doing it, there were some friends that I've known for 30 years that come out to this. And then there's some new people that always come out and we make new friends, right? So I really enjoy that. And, you know, I don't do it 5-6 nights a week anymore like I used to. Once a month is enough for me now because I'm not 21 anymore. Let's put it that way. But it's always good to have some people come out and have a good time. We'll be returning to the Moose Lodge. They do a lot of fun stuff down there at the Moose Lodge. Moose Lodge 1046 local here. Check them out on Facebook. But we're going to be doing karaoke at the Moose Lodge every fourth Friday, starting in July. They're going to skip June. There's a good reason, though. They're doing some renovations in the back hall there, the Moose Lodge. So we'll be one of the first entertainers to be in there in July when it opens back up. But the front part, the socializing area, is staying open. So go down, check it out. They have the women in the Moose put on some great dinners. They have panel board games. They do hillbilly horseshoes. It's just a lot of fun. It's when you get the right group of people together, a lot of fun things can happen, right? And we've always had a good time down there. So looking forward to getting back to that. Moving on, the next part of the weekend was the Walk for Alzheimer's. And if you were a Facebook friend, you probably got a message from me at some point asking you to donate towards this. So the Walk for Alzheimer's happens every year. This year, 200 walkers showed up. We started down at the Suncor Agora here in Sarnia. Mother Nature did cooperate that day. It was a beautiful day. We did a 5K walk. And my family got involved. My sister was down, and some of my step family, and my father has Alzheimer's, so we were walking for him this year. And I think we raised just under $3,000 ourselves for our team. But here's the exciting part: $40,000 was raised on Saturday for the Alzheimer's Society here in Sarnia-Lambton, and that was. They came up $800 short, and I forget who the organization is, honestly, but they were in the crowd, and they said, we'll throw in the extra $800 to make it a $40,000 accomplishment for the Alzheimer's Society. Practically double of last year. Last year was $22,000. So what a great accomplishment for the Alzheimer's Society here in Sarnia-Lambton. And like I say, 200 people got out there to walk. And then the Rotary Club, if that wasn't enough, you were definitely hungry after the walk. The Rotary Club of Sarnia-Lambton was there serving up pancakes and sausages and donated all that to the cause as well. So it's probably even a little more than $40,000 right now. So great cause, of course. There's a lot of walks going on. There was another one the day before. The Juvenile Diabetes Association had their walk, and I know they had a great turnout. I don't know the numbers, but it's just fantastic. And what a great way to get family together and get out and get some exercise. Who doesn't need a little exercise? Anyway, congratulations to the Alzheimer's Society for that. And like I said, I know they'll be doing that again next year. And they're going to have some other things coming up as well. In September, it's an event called It's 5 o'clock Somewhere. Guess what that's going to be about? We'll be having Marie Marcy joining us here in the next few weeks to reveal the details about that. So congratulations to the Alzheimer's Society. Well, here's something. And that's, by the way, special shout out. She's not on Facebook, but that's my sister walking. We made the finale there. We showed that we got through. And I don't get to see her as often as I'd like, so it was nice to have her there. All right. Now, here's something I never thought I would talk about. And I had a guest on here last week. Michelle Parks was here, and they were counting how many times they would get me to say Tampon Tuesday. Tampon Tuesday is happening. Well, if you're watching this live tomorrow, it'll be on Tuesday night, and it is to collect tampons or pads that go to the Inn of the Good Shepherd, because this is something that gets often missed, and it's expensive, right? So they're having the first ever Tampon Tuesday here at the Workplace Group here in Sarnia on Tuesday from 6 till 8 p.m. I'll be the MC there, as well as some special guest speakers will be talking about this. And I think Mayor Bradley's going to be making an appearance. And entrance to this box of tampons or pads, right? I just never thought I'd be talking about that on the show. And I didn't realize just how much of a need it really is needed out there in the community. Sometimes people make the decision between, do I buy milk or this? And we don't want them to have to make that choice. So that's why Tampon Tuesday's there to help things out with that. Are you a techie, or maybe you're not a techie? If you're not a techie, maybe you should be attending this. The Sarnia Tech community gets together every month. This time they're getting together at 100 Christina Street. So if you're here in Sarnia, you know, right downtown Sarnia, across the street from the Hog Bar, right, is a big building there, and it right up, big numbers, says 100 Christina Street. You can't miss it. They're going to be getting together for their monthly gathering, translating ideas into profits. Who doesn't like profits, right? But how do you translate those ideas into the profits? How do you put yourself out there? Special guest speakers happening. That's coming up Wednesday, May the 29th, Sarnia Tech Community. They join us here sometimes. We'll look forward to having them back. And of course, now, I've been to a lot of different fundraisers, and I always like an original idea that comes out on how to raise funds. We were just talking about the Inn of the Good Shepherd. Stinky Fish Challenge, the Great Stinky Fish Challenge. Now, It's exactly what it is. It's a great stinky fish challenge. I don't know. I should have called John Hollingsworth, but the fact that John Hollingsworth's involved in this will tell you that it's a wacky idea. John Hollingsworth, of course, one of the Fidgets, a local comedy team here in Sarnia-Lambton, came up with this idea. It's a type of fish that they eat. I don't know what it is, but it stinks like horribly, horribly. Don't want to eat that bad. So why not try to eat that? This is how they're raising money for the Inn of the Good Shepherd Stinky Fish Challenge. Miles Vanny, who is the executive director for the Inn of the Good Shepherd, he has to eat. And Brian White, of course, county councillor for the city and county here, he's involved. John Hollingsworth, of course, had to be involved. And Courtney Levert, a local realtor here in town. Courtney, I don't know how they talked you into this. Courtney is such a nice young lady, works very hard in our community, and they've talked her into this. So the Stinky Fish Challenge, if you want to find out more about that, go to thefidgets.com/Stinky Fish Challenge. And don't worry if you don't catch all the links here right now. We'll be posting all the links, all the posters and dates of everything that we talk about here on the show after the show, including what we talk about with our guests, the Stinky Fish Challenge. Yeah, I can't wait. I hear the train a-coming. Well, that's not the only thing that's coming to town. The Johnny Cash Experience is coming to town. On June the 1st, the Johnny Cash Experience will be at the Sarnia Legion. And you can go online to Facebook, to the Sarnia Legion, find out about this. I have never heard this, but I've heard someone who has heard this exact gentleman, the Johnny Cash Experience, before and said, close your eyes, it's Johnny Cash up there. So should be fun time. June 1st. Are we already at June? How many more days till Christmas? Yeah, don't say that, David. I'm not allowed to say that yet. Go see the Johnny Cash Experience and the Legion down there. All the monies goes to them, and of course they release some monies out into the community for many different things. And Veterans D-Day is also coming up next week. We'll be talking about that on next week's show, but just a quick reminder. So the Johnny Cash Experience. This one I'm really excited for. I talk about it on the show every week for a reason. It's because very excited for this coming to town, and heavily involved with, well, going to be heavily involved with the Tall Ships are coming to Sarnia, August 9th to the 11th. And thanks to the Carpenters Union and Imperial Sarnia site for their support. There is a ton of sponsors and supporters for this. Too long to list, but of course we have to mention the major ones, which is great. And the Tall Ships coming to town. I will be live streaming from the Tall Ships, on the ships. The sail-in will be at Artscape by the Bay, which is a partner with the Tall Ships celebration. And Blue Water Border Fest has moved into August to be a part of the celebration as well. And the whole weekend is fantastic. Blue Water Border Fest has not yet announced everything. There is more coming. I just got a text this morning that said, this is coming, David, but no, you're not allowed to say anything on the show today. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm really frustrated with that, but I understand why. Mark Perrin from Blue Water Border Fest will keep us posted as to more that is coming. But the Sarnia, Ontario Blue Water Border Fest weekend welcoming Dennis DeYoung and the music of Styx. And then, of course, guitar player from Asia, drummer from Night Ranger, and Lou Graham, the voice of Foreigner, is also going to be performing there as well. And I just think, I know these guys have been around a long, long time. And, some people say this and that. Here's the thing. They're still going and giving her, and they know how to put on a show. And I think it's fantastic that they're still getting to do what they love. And we get them to come here to Sarnia and rock it out, as you will. I'm old and I'm a classic rocker, so I'm looking forward to that. I will be the MC for Blue Water Border Fest as well. And we'll also be behind the scenes with my camera, broadcasting live. And we'll be talking to some of these guests coming to Blue Water Border Fest as well. So I'm really excited for that as well. All right, what do we got coming up next? There we go. It's that time to get ready for our first guest. This is something, we talked about, I mentioned Alzheimer's earlier. This is also something that you probably don't think about, or you probably don't know about until it happens to you. And it's good to know that these organizations are available to us here in Sarnia-Lambton, the Brain Injury Association of Sarnia-Lambton. And we've got two of our guests here on their way into the lobby. There's Lori, I got to say this right, Girolametto.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. And we've got Kevin Chung joining us here as well.
Hi there.
Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. This is important. You just probably heard me say there that it's important, but it's probably not thought of or important to you until it happens to you or someone directly in your family, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely, David. I think you started that off perfectly well. And I think, many of us go into this type of organization because it's happened to us personally, or we know somebody that it has affected. Um, for myself, I married my husband who had a brain injury when he was 11 years of age. And, after, being together with him, we quickly discovered that we needed the support, not only for ourselves, but then also for our family. And I was very thankful that we had the Brain Injury Association to rely on.
Right. Now, interesting point there. You made so you went into a relationship knowing that there was something already there that needed to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. So you were maybe a little prepared for that. But what about someone who goes into a relationship and then later in life, the brain injury comes along? And that is, I've heard it said to some people I know, it's like you're married to a whole different person now.
Absolutely. It's life-changing. I represent a lot of clients who are involved in an accident, and their partner might have a brain injury, and it completely turns a family's life upside down. And I think one of the things about brain injuries is we're getting better at the awareness piece of it, but there hasn't been a lot of awareness in years past. And so when somebody does have a brain injury, they might not recognize it right away, or the staff at the hospital might not recognize it right away, or at the school.
Right.
And it's only maybe after a year or 2 years you're noticing that something is really off, but you're not really sure what it is until you, by chance, you happen to come across somebody who knows about brain injuries, and that's when it really opens a door about what it is and how you can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, and that's important to understand too. I mean, there's so many fundraisers and there's so many associations. It's good that they're out there, and a lot of them do run into the awareness issue because it hasn't happened to me. Oh yeah, I heard of that. But it really is important for as many people, even if you're not dealing with brain injury yourself or someone in your family, to understand. I would think like teachers, maybe a bus driver, anybody who's dealing with our children, if it happens there, or even adults in the workplace, because people can still move forward with a brain injury and still work, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely, David. And that's what we really try to promote, is the reintegration into the community after the brain injury. But sometimes there's the conflict for a lot of our members who are struggling with what they now call the invisible disability. And that can be a real challenge for a lot of our survivors, for the survivors and or their caregivers. So as you said, it's really important for the teachers, the restaurant people that are taking your order off the menu to, just to be aware that, you may need that little bit of extra patience when you're taking that order from the survivor, because it just may take them that much longer to process, or just to read the menu, or just to make their mind up as to what it is that they're going to order.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but it can be overcome.
Yeah. And especially in today's society, because we move so fast, like even when we go to a drive-through restaurant, if there's one car in front of us, we feel slowed down, right?
Exactly.
So that's that fast pace, and we're used to that kind of delivery. It could probably make things more difficult for, maybe the cashier to go, come on, hurry up, buddy.
Yeah,
not really
definitely.
understanding that. How do we recognize it though? Like if there's like somebody doesn't walk up to you and go, hi, my name is, and I have this.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true, and that's a big job for us that we continue to, be thankful for opportunities like this to promote and create that awareness. And June is Brain Injury Awareness Month, and so we're doing our very best to get out there and continue to let people know brain injury can happen. We're all vulnerable to it, and and we're just creating that education and awareness. Our members, through a bigger umbrella than ourselves, through OBIA, which is the Ontario Brain Injury Association, they can carry around a card with them, which they take a lot of pride in. And it actually outlines that they have a brain injury. And it states what some of the symptoms are with a brain injury so that they can use that. If they're really feeling pressured and under the gun, they can use that card to explain. And they don't have to do it themselves. They can just use the card and the other person can read it and it'll explain for them that they have that brain injury.
oh, okay. That's see, there's something I wouldn't have known. To have that availability, and that probably makes that person feel a little comforting too, to go, I have this handy just in case I need it.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
what other kind of things, like, let's talk about finances though, for somebody, I'm in a healthy marriage, I'm working, and then all of a sudden something happens at work, for example. And it doesn't always happen at work. I understand that, but there's an example. And now, right away, like you say, life gets turned upside down, and I might not be able to work right away. And maybe I need someone to take care of me, whether that be my spouse or an outside service. All this costs money. Where does that come from?
Well, it really depends on how the injury happened. So if you're at work, it might be through workers' compensation. You might get some benefits there. If you're involved in a car accident, you might have some income replacement there. Now, these sources of income are very rarely uh, will it match what you had before, if ever. Um, but a lot of people who have brain injuries don't have an insurance benefit or a policy that they
Right.
can fall back on, and so it is really, really a struggle for them. And a lot of them fall back onto social services such as the Ontario Disability Support Program or Ontario Works, and they try to make do with that. But it's certainly very, very difficult.
Now, does the Brain Injury Association, are you funded from the government, or what means is the association itself funded from?
No, most of the brain injury associations across the province, so each city or most of the cities across the province have their own chapter. Most of us are not government funded, so we are out there raising donations through fundraisers. We just had a golf tournament, which is our key fundraiser. And we in Sarnia here, we do gift wrapping at Lambton Mall.
Right.
So we were able to raise some funds to support our programs and our members that way.
Right. So you're pretty much self-funded to keep this going.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it can be stressful.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, and that's why I guess we're also talking about a movie night that's coming up. You guys are doing this weekend, right? June 1st.
Yes, that's
And
right.
it's
Yeah.
called Every 21 Seconds. What's this about?
Yes. So it's a movie that's based on a true story. The gentleman's name is Brian Sweeney, and he sustained a traumatic brain injury due to an assault while he was out with some of his close friends on a men's weekend away. It really is a raw, emotional, impactful movie, but it's one that I really wanted to provide the Sarnia community with an imagery of what a lot of our members face and also what our caregivers face when it comes to brain injury and the recovery of the same. You're looking at a long road to recovery. You're looking at resilience. You're looking at caregiving, family, community, and I think this story really sums it up. And like I said, it's based on a true story.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're going to be showing it. It's a kickoff to Brain Injury Awareness Month.
Right. And what's every 21 seconds? Is there a meaning behind that?
What it represents, this movie does take place in the States, is that every 21 seconds there is the opportunity for a brain injury to be occurring.
Every 21 seconds?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. That's like 3 times a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about the because one of our viewers, actually from the United Kingdom, Corinder. Thanks for being here, Corinder. Here's the question: are there any cause of injury, or can it just be bang, just like that? I guess no pun intended, but it can come from a physical standpoint, but can it also, like, what are causes of all of this? Are there different ways that a brain injury comes about?
So a traumatic brain injury really is due to damage to the brain caused by a traumatic event like blow to the head, a fall, motor vehicle accident, a sports injury, and they've spoken a lot more about just even a jar to the whole body can cause a brain injury as well. So, if somebody falls at a huge impact to the ground, not necessarily, of course, you're going to hit your head, but even to the body, that can cause a brain injury. And, affecting the head and the neck, those are all interrelated factors that are to be considered. A non-traumatic brain injury is something that is more linked to, a stroke.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's the difference in the meaning or the definition.
Right. So we're doing the movie night, and Brain Injury Awareness Month coming up. That's the kickoff to Brain Injury Awareness Month.
That's
and
right.
Then you said you got a golf tournament as well?
Oh, we just had one last week.
Oh, okay.
We host it every year.
Right. And then you've got the Christmas wrapping. Are there other things besides that you...
We do a number of smaller...
Are you getting by with all of what you're doing?
Yeah, we do a number of smaller fundraising events throughout the year. I just listed off our major ones.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, for fundraising. We're also, one of our volunteers, Carolyn, she's going to be hosting a card making fundraiser on June 25th here at the VON building. It's $30, and people will walk away with 25 completed cards, the handmade cards, David, that people really like to enjoy putting together. They're beautiful. Yeah. And so for that value, that's a really good opportunity to, have some fun. The donations go to brain injury, and it's a fun night out. So that's on the 25th of June here at the VON office. So if you're interested, give us a call here at the office, 519-337-5657. Just a little plug.
No, get it all in there. That's what we got you for.
Yeah.
And yeah. I've got the website up on the screen here for you as well. So, and do me a favor, put me on, I don't know, like, if you've got my email, I think, put me on a media list or whatever, and make sure I know about these things. Even if I can't have you here, I can at least talk about them.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We do.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, and I do got to move on. But is there anything else that you want to put out there before I let you go?
Have people, we hope to see you at the movie night on Saturday. People check our website out. We have a lot of programs for family and for the survivors. We have a peer mentor program, a caregiver support program, and lots of social leisure programs. So we thank you very much for having us, David.
You're welcome back anytime. Don't ever be afraid to ask. Thank you so much, Lori and Kevin. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, there, the Brain Injury Association of Sarnia-Lambton. Again, one of those things that you don't really think about until it happens to you, but it's still important to know about these programs and organizations here in our community. And as you heard me talking, many of them self-funded. Not everything comes from the government, folks. I'm sorry to tell you, not everything comes from the government. And money is that, what's that saying? It's money isn't everything, but it is up there with oxygen. You kind of need it to live. That's just the way it goes. And that kind of leads into my next guest who's coming up here, who does support a lot of what the organization he's involved with, does support many of the different agencies here, the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton, and our friend Dave Brown.
Good afternoon, David.
How are you today, sir?
I am doing wonderful. The sun is shining. It actually looks like a spring day.
Yeah, well, if we can stay away from the rain, I don't know if you heard me talking earlier, but it's been pretty devastating for some people, like golf courses, and I know Forest is struggling, and even here in Sarnia, there's some wet basements. But
absolutely, I know you probably know Saturday was garage sale day up at Forest, so we went up there on the weekend, and you're right, the flooding up there was unbelievable.
Yeah, my Jennifer's parents live out in Forest on a farm, and they said in all the years they've lived there, that's only the second time ever that their laneway was covered over in water.
Wow.
And the city streets were, and she did mention, she said it was garage sale day.
Yeah, and they closed off streets, and you probably saw the video on Facebook of Rock Glen, which normally is a trickle. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I guess from just a few hours of rain.
Yeah, well, that Mother Nature, you can do whatever she wants, I guess.
That's true.
How's United Way doing? I know recently you had your Pasta Fest dinner at the Donny Club, right?
We did have the Pasta Fest a couple of weeks ago and raised several $100s. So that's great news. Of course, the next couple of months, we're going to be focusing on our direct mail campaign. You know, direct mail is still a vital piece of our campaign strategy. We'll raise about 12 to 14% of our campaign through the mail, largely to retirees, but also small businesses, professionals, and whatnot. So the first wave of that has gone out already, and more going out in a couple of weeks. And of course, this summer we have our Give It to Till campaign at the local LCBO stores. When people are buying their refreshments for the summer, they'll be asked to donate $2 or $5 out to Till. And last year, your listeners would be interested to hear, we raised over $36,000 through the two campaigns that we have at the LCBO. So it adds up, and it really does come back to Sarnia. And then, of course,
36,000?
Over 36,000 was raised.
Wow.
So we thank the LCBO employees for their support and for their encouragement of asking their customers. And, of course, all of the local customers throughout Lambton County who supported that campaign.
Yeah. Well, and it's an ongoing thing, right? You know, that money thing.
Right.
And I think it's important for people to understand that you are not funded by the government. You are 100% funded, right, by the people.
By donations, whether they be personal donations or contributions from corporate or businesses. And more, we're getting more donations of stocks and equities, but also through people's wills.
Through people's wills.
Right. We have an endowment fund called the Future Fund, and right now it's up to about 2.5 million. And the whole idea is we take that money and we invest it. And 3.5% of that each and every year goes directly into agency funding. So if we can get up to $10 million, and right now we're almost a third of the way, because we also have some life insurance that was donated to us by people who are still alive. So when you factor that in, we've got over 300,000. If we can get to 10, we could say that 100% of your contribution is directly invested in the community programs and services. So we see that as a pretty key component to our strategy. And so anybody who donates through their will, and we've had a number of people who have, it goes into that fund, and we never touch the principal. It'll be there forever and ever and ever, but we take 3.5% every year for that agency funding.
Wow, what an interesting way to, put money in the pocket for these services.
Absolutely. And that 2.4 million. Absolutely. And that 2.4 million is already bringing us in $80,000 per year directly into agency funding. So that's 4% of the campaign right there.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you look at, the United Way or any nonprofit organization, really, it's smart to really treat it like a business.
Right.
That
Right.
we have to make money. We're here to make money. You maybe have different reasons for making the money, but that's what we're here for. So you must have some smart people around you to say, invest over here or don't invest over here. Or how do you make those kind of decisions?
Well, typically the investing or donating through your will are oftentimes people who donate $100, $200 every year to the United Way, but they want to leave a bit of a legacy. So one doesn't necessarily mean you're going to donate one way and not the other. Somebody may be donating for 20, 30, or 40 years, and they feel that that's something important to them. And when they do pass away, they want to make sure that they're able to continue to support that organization forever. And the Future Fund is an excellent opportunity for them to do that.
Right. But when you take that money and invest it, though, to create that 3%, those are decisions that somebody's got to be making. How does that, what are you investing in, or how does that get decided?
Well, we've had a couple of tenders recently, and most recently, we've awarded the management of that future fund to John Simpson of Ridgewood Capital Management. He looks after the investments with the Sarnia Humane Society Foundation and with the Sarnia Community Foundation and a number of other charitable foundations across Canada. So he's very reputable. He charges us an extremely low rate. And the last 2 or 3 years, he's produced some terrific results. We have an investment strategy whereby he cannot exceed 60% equities, of which a certain percentage have to be Canadian, none in developing markets. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just you're going, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So we would set that up. So much money is it could be invested in bonds, so much in GICs. So it's very conservatively. I mean, you don't see us investing in marijuana companies or a lot of brand new high tech startups. Certainly, Uber and Tesla is not in our portfolio, but the Googles and the Apples and some of those what I would call blue chip NASDAQ stocks are. Many or most pay a dividend. So they're very conservatively invested, and we've been experiencing very good rates. So anything in excess of that 3.5% is just reinvested into the capital for next year. So if we were lucky enough to do a 7% rate of return, then it's 3.5% to agencies and another 3.5% that goes back into the fund for reinvestment. So that next year we'll get 3.5% on top of that 3.5%.
Right, and just keep building, and then there's more to go around because you've got a lot of people knocking in your door asking for money, I'm sure. And probably more than a bank does.
That's a good point, probably.
Yeah. But there's only so much to go around, and you can only do so much. And I know that's difficult decisions at times, as we've talked about many times in the past. But you have a number of local board members that this is you're not doing this on your own. You got some
no. We've got 15 board members who are fantastic individuals from a cross section of our community, different ages, who make those decisions. And every year we have 15 board members. We typically have 1 or 2 or 3 new ones each year that are replaced. And I really think that that's one of the things that set the United Way apart as well, is not only is it the money used in a community spent here, but it's local decision making. Those 15 people take very seriously their responsibility to make decisions on what makes sense in our community, not what makes sense in Ottawa or Toronto or Montreal or London for that matter. What makes sense right here for the people in Sarnia-Lambton. And I think with their leadership, we've been successful as a result of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's important for people to understand too, that sometimes, like a franchise of something, or they say, well, this is the cookie cutter. This is how we do things. And we're just going to duplicate that all over the place. And that's
I just lost you for a minute there, Dave. But you're right. The United Way of Canada does have certain criteria. For example, we must all have an actual audit We must all have volunteer board of directors. We must all run a fall campaign, those kinds of things. But as far as what we do with the money in our own internal policies is up to each of the 87 or 88 United Ways in Canada.
Yeah, okay. I only caught part of that. I hit a button on my keyboard and I couldn't hear you.
Well, and I couldn't hear you, so I just started rambling.
No, yeah. Say whatever you want about me. I can't hear you. I caught part of that though, but I guess what I was saying, if I'm repeating myself, sorry folks, is every city's different and really has their own demographic and need, and
right.
And I think it's important that it is local. And speaking of local, let's remind everybody that every dollar that comes into United Way Sarnia-Lambton stays right here.
Is used here. Absolutely. I mean, we've got 18 regularly funded agencies that provide 36 different programs and services, but we also have a couple of other funding programs, such as our venture grant program. And we've talked about that in the past, which is 1 year temporary funding for an agency that needs it. And they could reapply for up to 2 more years. And we also have our sponsorship fund, whereby we fund up to $2,000 for an agency that is in need for that, or maybe is putting on an event. And we recently awarded funding for a grandparents program. And this is done out of Point Edward. And they're for grandparents or great aunts and uncles who have been suddenly awarded custody of a grandchild or grandchildren. And often it's without notice. They have a week's notice. And they've gone from maybe in some cases being retired or looking after an aging parent to all of a sudden becoming caregivers of infants. And, you know, the struggles that they go through, not just financial, but that's a big piece of it, but dealing with isolation and depression and both heartbreak and anger at the same time. Those folks need some extra help. And so there's a support group that has started up in Point Edward. And if anybody wants more information, they can call me at the office at 519-336-5452. I'm at extension 7, and I can steer them in the right place. And we sponsor their support meetings for the next 10 meetings. So they can get out, meet other grandparents just like them in the same boat, and hear their stories. They have guest speakers talking about subjects that matter to them. And so that's a great example of what the sponsorship funding is all about. They came to us. We did a quick poll with our executive committee, and it was unanimously accepted that's important for us to fund. And, you know, we're going to be taking a close look at that organization going forward and provide them the kind of help and support that they need so they can continue to help and support those grandmas and grandpas who find themselves in this position.
Yeah. Well, never would have thought of that one.
No. And, I was
you don't think of till it happens to you.
And I was expecting to hear stories of, we've been retired now for a couple of years, and now all of a sudden we're hockey moms and dads, or we got to get up and go to the arena at 6 a.m. Their stories are far more heartfelt than that. Where there's in some cases addiction issues and abuse issues. There's that, as I mentioned, isolation and depression. All those emotions swirling around. And I never would have thought it was that kind of an issue either until I met some of these women and heard some of their stories. It's unbelievable.
Well, just another great way that United Way of Sarnia-Lambton is connecting with the community. And just before we go, that's something I want to mention too, is I know you have your day of caring, right?
Right.
You're not just an organization that sits behind a desk and makes these decisions and shuffles paper and says, here you go. United Way Sarnia-Lambton actually gets out in the community and mingles with the people in the community. And there's a lot of relationship building going on there.
Hey, you're right. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I got a great staff here. There's only myself plus 4 others. We've had very little turnover. So they're known in the community as the people from United Way. And you're right, we do get out and we'd love to take part in the Day of Caring and meeting some of the agencies that are providing the service and meeting some of the people who get the service. I was fortunate to go to Forest last week a couple of times to meet the folks from the Opening Doors program and talking to some of the people there who, if it weren't for Opening Doors, they'd be sitting at home, watching Judge Judy and doing nothing else. Now they're learning cooking and they're planting in the garden, and many of them depend on the Red Cross transportation programs, which we fund to get them there. And it's completely turned their life around. They're no longer isolated. They're eating well. They're healthier. And it's just a better overall quality of life. And it was nice hearing from those people directly, and just how appreciative they are of United Way and donors. I really enjoy doing that kind of thing.
Fantastic. Well, you've been doing a good job for several years now, so thanks to you. And thanks to your team as well for, I know you got a small team, but doing great big things. So that's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for being here again. Dave, any final words before I let you go?
I don't think so. We covered a lot of ground today, and it's always a pleasure. I know that we're booked up now to the end of this year, so I'm excited every month of being on the show. Wonderful.
Thanks, Dave. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well.
Dave Brown, Executive Director of the United Way Sarnia-Lambton, doing a lot of great things, and he's stopping by here every month to keep us updated. And they count the dollars, and they're accountable to the dollars, and they're grateful to all of you. Again, 100% funded by you, the people. They're not funded by the government. And I know last year they came up just about $30,000 short of their $2 million goal. So I know they'll be announcing the new campaign coming up shortly. And again, Dave Brown joining us back here every month. Thanks, Dave. All right. Now we're completely going to shift gears. Let me ask you a question. Who doesn't like pizza? Pizza Fest. The next one. And we're going to let our friend Laurissa Ellsworth from the Town of Petrolia. How you doing, Laurissa?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. It's been way too long.
I actually was thinking that. I don't know how many years we've been doing this, but I think it's been a couple since we've talked.
Yeah, well, and you know, I've had you on the show before, but yeah, it's been a while. I'm like, boy, she's a busy girl and doing great things out there in the Town of Petrolia. And Pizza Fest is back.
It's back for the 6th year this year.
The 6th year, I couldn't remember that. That's 6 years, really. I think I remember the first one, and I think one of the toughest things about Pizza Fest is deciding where to start.
Actually, true. We put everyone in alphabetical order, so people can either start at B and end at W, or start at W and end at B. It doesn't matter.
Now, how did this get started? Where did Pizza Fest and explain to the people who are watching just how many pizza places there are in Petrolia?
That's exactly how it started. We had a conversation in special events and said, why don't we celebrate what we have? So we started taking stock of the things that we have, you know, aside from the great theater and all of our parks and all of these great assets in our community. We suddenly realized at the time, so 6 years ago, we had 7 pizza restaurants. And we thought, hey, why don't you go with what you're good at? And then we had 8, and then we had so many as 9 at one point. And I believe we're down around 8 again this year. So 5 participants, but 8 available pizza restaurants in Petrolia.
Yeah. And this little town of Petrolia does great big things like Pizza Fest. Like I say, obviously people who live around Petrolia, like myself, have lived here all my life. I think Petrolia, and the first thing I think of is oil. Right? Yeah. Which is great, and there's a lot of great history about that there. But you're right, there's so much more going on out there with the parks and the pizza, and it's just a really fun community, right?
I think so. I think it's the most fun.
Yeah, and the theater, like wow, they bring some amazing people to the theater, and there's a lot of talent going on there as well. Now, speaking of talent, it's not just about the pizza, though. You're going to have some entertainment there.
We will, actually. Fan favorite Borderline returns. They like to open Pizza Fest every year for us. And the Jeff Massey Band from London, he's a returning musician as well. Roundhouse is new to us. They're a bunch of young folks out of Corunna, so that'll be nice to have them. And Mudmen take the stage officially, and I believe what's been their first outdoor concert in Petrolia in my tenure. So in the last 10 years at least.
Do you know, I've interviewed the Mudmans. I've talked to them. I've communicated with them, and I have yet to see them live ever.
All right, well.
I can't see them this time either.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm just...
They do a great show inside of Victoria Hall every year, but I understand from many people, and I can totally agree that it's going to be a really great show outside. I think it'll be.
Yeah, they have a lot of high energy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what happens? All the money that comes in from this, where does this go?
So basically, we act as a steward for all of the pizza restaurants and collect money for tickets, and then we divide it up at the end of the event. But a portion of that proceeds, every single slice, there's a small portion of it that goes to the Petrolia Community Fund, something that's administered through the Sarnia Community Foundation. And our pizza restaurants have asked that the money be earmarked within the Petrolia Community Fund for parks improvements in the town of Petrolia. So,
Why not?
yeah, I mean, playground equipment, that sort of thing. So they have a little fund started, and it is starting to get to a point now where it's making some noise and it's going to be potentially available. So, yeah.
Well, and isn't it great though that like if I'm the pizza involved, I have kind of a say in where that money goes in my community. I'm participating in something, and the town of Petrolia listen to what I have to say. Now, what about, this is like all family oriented. I mean, you can't have kids with pizza, not have kids there, right? So you got some family stuff going on there too?
We do, absolutely. It's all about family, actually. It's bouncy castles and face painting and games and things like that. They start at noon and go until 7 o'clock. And then 7 o'clock is when Mud Men take the stage. So we decide to sort of wrap up those larger items to make more room for lawn chairs and people to come in and watch the concert. So.
Okay. And is there a cost for people to use the bouncy castles, or is that part of it, or?
Yeah, the bouncy castles are free, and the face painting is free, compliments of Main Street Credit Union in Sarnia. So.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, we came out, I know it was last year, the year before, and we come out there, and one of the things we noticed, besides just a really fun, positive family atmosphere, it wasn't really expensive.
No, the pizza slices are $2.50. And you get a fairly good sized pizza slice for that.
Yeah.
And the drinks, like there's pop and water and that sort of thing through the Lambton Central Petrolia Optimist Club. And I want to say that they're about $1.50. The Scouts are here with their ice cream and freezies. And we do have barbecue too for those that don't like pizza. But it's all very affordable. It's meant to be an outing for your whole family that doesn't break the bank.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I say. We notice that. Because if you have mom and dad, and if mom and dad have 2 children, it can get expensive if things are priced like $5 a slice or more, or something, or $3 for pop, or that was just something that was really noticeable in the past. Was that, hey, this is really affordable, and right down in the middle of right down at Town Hall there, right, and it's kind of a central hub there for what a great place to have the gathering.
We're really lucky to have that park in the center of town because I know that Pizza Fest benefits other businesses in the area. There's lots of parking around, that sort of thing. We've talked about moving it off to like Greenwood Park or another park in the area, but it takes it outside of downtown and it takes that peace and that support to our businesses away. So we don't want to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Stay where you are. It's working, and say you're in your 6th year, and Roundhouse. I've met those young fellas several years ago, and they will bring a lot of energy out there. Awesome. And of course, John and the guys from is it Borderline or Border Light that's coming?
We're getting the whole Borderline, the whole thing, not the trio. Yeah,
right on. So lots of fun and energy out there.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate it. It's nice to have you back on here. Is there anything about Pizza Fest you want to put out there before I let you go?
Just a huge thank you to our sponsors. Without them, Pizza Fest wouldn't be here. We get a bit of good faith from council every year to get started and get rolling, but it's our sponsorship that keeps things affordable, and it provides an opportunity for our community to come together. So that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, let's reach out anytime. I think you got me on a newsletter list now. I got that today, and
good.
And anything going on, even if you don't have time to come back every time, at least I can mention it out there for you.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Laurissa. Have a good day.
You too.
Laurissa Ellsworth from the Town of Petrolia. It's always nice to talk to her. She's always got such a happy, positive face on and talking and doing great things out there in Petrolia. So really appreciate her joining us here today. And if you want to find out more what's happening with Pizza Fest or just what's happening in the town of Petrolia, there's their website up on the screen. Pizza Fest also coming up this Saturday out in Petrolia. And another reason that I'm really glad Laurissa joined here, and I just want to put this out there real quick, is, on the show I talk about promoting Sarnia-Lambton, but I've fallen into, I want to talk to more. It's Sarnia-Lambton. It's not just about Sarnia. Pardon me. So it's always nice to have people outside of Sarnia, Petrolia and Corunna and all around us here joining here on the show. And those great things. And if you are in Sarnia, Petrolia is like 15, 20 minutes away from here. It's not a big deal. And it's a beautiful drive out there. And the great people of Petrolia. And check out all the other local businesses that are happening around the park of where Pizza Fest is. You can go for a nice walk. Park's not far away. And maybe head over to the theater and check out. They've got some great announcements coming up as well. Maybe we can get in touch with them and talk more about that as well. I think that's everything. Yeah, we covered everything. Well, listen, I thank you so much here for watching. But if you can't always watch, but you'd like to listen, you can take me, I don't know, I guess on your watch or your iPad or your whatever, maybe even your car. This turns into a podcast in about 24 hours. We'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found. You can listen to the show with David Burrows. I do thank you all so very much for joining me here. Really appreciate having you stop by and saying hello. And if you enjoyed the show, thanks for being here. And if you're watching the replay, thanks to you as well. That's all the time I got for you this week, everybody. Have a great week and an even better weekend. I will talk to you next time right here on the show live. Bye for now.